Am I audible? Okay, great. But I'm not able to, Nikhat, I'm not able to see my video. Let me join again. Nikhat, I was able to see my video, but suddenly the video is not seen. I don't know why. I logged in as well. Good morning, all of you. Yes, I know it's not visible, but I don't know why. Okay, Nikhat, let's start, I guess. Let's not waste further time. If you can give me the controls, I'll just start the. It's okay, guys. Let's. I'll try to again. If at all the camera is on, everything is on, but it's not working. Okay, we'll start with the audio. Nikhat, can you just share me the. Can you give me the controls? I guess there's some problem with the video, but it's okay. We can still connect. Okay. Uh, yes, I guess it's working. Great. Okay. There were a lot of. Now, today we are going to start with. I hope I'm audible. I'm visible now, don't worry. Yes, okay, fine. Great. Good morning, all of you. The technical issues remain always, but we'll have to live with this. Like we're living with the COVID, we'll also have to live with the technical issues sometimes. Okay. Now, today we are going to start with contract. Contract Act is also a very important subject, and I want you to again focus here because Contract Act is not something which you can just easily understand. So now I know I'm able, you're able to see me. So now I would request that the chat should remain silent unless you have questions, and you should focus here on what I'm now going to take. Okay, now I've received, before I just begin, I received so many messages which are technical in nature, like I have not got the link and all. Guys, please note, I'm a faculty, so I'm not aware of technical details. You can always get in touch with ICSI to the extent I am aware of. I do always connect with you. But please don't spam my inbox and emails and WhatsApps on all the technical issues, okay? I'm here to explain you on any law related matters. Plus, one more request, we have a very limited number of lectures. So please, I can't go through entire each and every word which is written in the 321 pages module. Okay, so it is not possible that I each and everything which is being mentioned in the module. So you have to bear with it that to the extent possible, I will take, but I can't go on each and every line which is being there or mentioned in the textbook. Okay. So I guess there is some buffering which is going on. Is it voice is not clear? Okay, just give me a moment. I'll switch my network. All is clear now. Okay, I've switched my network as well. Great. So this is today we are going to now with the introduction. We are going to go ahead with the Contract Act today. So Contract Act, we all know that we enter so many contracts. We have so many things. When you go to a shopkeeper, what do? Is you buy some groceries and you pay them. Is it a contract? What do you think? Is it a contract which you are entering into? Yes, it is a contract. You wanted some groceries. You get some groceries. You pay for it. So what if you see a typical thing, and when we are going to see, there is you wanted something. The shopkeeper is offering. You say, okay, I will take this. So it is an acceptance from your side, and you pay some amount to this, and that's how it becomes a contract, and that's what we are going to see. So unknowingly, knowingly, so we enter into so many contracts, but you're not aware sometimes that, oh, if what I'm entering is a contract. What do you do generally? Sometimes a known shopkeeper of yours, whom you buy all the kirana and all, or the daily groceries which you buy, right? So what you do is, you say sometimes you are in need of something, and unfortunately the either you don't have that enough cash, or there is no chutta for it, or something is a problem. So then you say, okay, you give me this, I'll give you tomorrow. Is it a contract still? Is it a contract? You say when you buy something, and you say, sir ji mere paas paise nahi hai, I'll give you tomorrow. Is it a contract? Yes, it is a contract, because you have agreed that I'll not pay you tomorrow, I'll not pay you today, I'll pay you tomorrow. So this is what I want to bring your attention to, that knowingly, unknowingly, you enter into so many contracts. But today we are going to see how technically these things come into picture, how technically you are going to understand what is an offer, what is an acceptance, what is a consideration. So Indian Contract Act is the governing act. So even the transaction which you enter with your shopkeeper for buying groceries is also a contract. And if you don't pay, what is going to happen? The shopkeeper is going to come to your home and get the money from you, right? Or he is going to say that please give the money which was payable by you. So that's what this becomes a contract. Uh, Now, contract. Okay, like I told you, if we can focus on contracts, that would be better. I see my chat box flooded. I get disturbed sometimes. I think there is a question, so I look at it. But let's focus on what we are explaining, and then we may keep a round of 5 minutes where you can ask questions, and I'm happy to answer. Okay, but now please focus on Indian Contract Act. So, if we have to now go through Indian Contract Act, you have to see what is a contract, okay, and what is an agreement, because these are two different things, and you should be knowing that, because we are now all legal students, and when we say that we are legal students, we should be using the correct legal language attached to it. So, Indian Contract Act defines contract as an agreement enforceable by law. Now, this remember this word which is being mentioned, an agreement. So, what we say, okay, let's be in at an agreement that. So, for example, I'll give you again a day-to-day examples. You go to Sabji Mandi, you go to a market where all the vegetables are being sold. What do? If you want to buy 5 kilos of, say, flour or whatever, whichever is your favorite vegetable, what do you say? Okay, I'll purchase this for the vegetable vendor says, I'll sell you at 500 rupees. And you say, no, no, this is too high, you're saying. I'm not going to give you 500 rupees. I'll give you what? 400 rupees. If you're ready for 400 rupees, I'll pay you. Otherwise, I'll not take it. Is this the regular scene which you are aware of? Right? This is a regular scene. Now, the question is whether an agreement is enforceable by law. Now, I'll give you another example. If somebody puts A, okay, at gunpoint and say, write a check for me that you are, or give this property to me, and Mr. A signs, okay, that this property is belonging to you, and somebody is put at a gunpoint and being said that this property is yours. Now, whether there is a receipt of property, yes. Is it a transaction? Yes. But whether it is an agreement enforceable by law, that there is the word enforceable by law, and that's what everybody, yes, you're right, it's coercion, perfect. So we have to now understand what is the difference between an agreement and what is the difference between a contract. Now you get it. Whenever the ingredients of a contract are missing, it is an agreement, but it cannot be enforceable by law. Now for example, I'll give you another example. While I'm saying you, I always had the habit of, so I, you know, right, I teach at ILS Law College. So at ILS Law College, it has been always a kind of, I would say, a tradition where on the last day of the series of lecture, I used to take everybody out for tea. All my students, we used to have tea. Now, this was like a unknown or said known kind of thing. So now, if on the last day, I used to, now say for example, I promise, okay, let's go for tea, let's go for tea. And on the last day, unfortunately, say I'm not well and I'm not able to come and take everybody for tea. Now, whether can you sue me for that? That ma'am, you had said we were in agreement that you were going to take us for tea, but you never took us for tea, or you are not taking us for tea. What is this? How can you become sick? Yes. So now there was an agreement between us that I'm going to take you for tea, but unfortunately, I was not able to take you for tea. Now you get it? Now this is an agreement but cannot be enforceable by law. You can't sue me, right? That, oh ma'am, how can you not take us for tea? You had agreed, this was a contract which we had signed. No, it is not a contract. It can be an agreement, but definitely not a contract. Similarly, say for example, this happens, I know for everybody must have at least faced once in a time. So, for example, you decide among all of your friends that let's go for this movie. Now, I'm obviously talking about a non-COVID scenario. So you decided let's go for a movie. All of the friends agreed, yes, yes, let's go for a movie. And one friend at the last moment ditched it. He never came to the movie hall. Can you sue him for that? You can, can say, oh, why didn't you not come? And you can do whatever after that. XXXX, you can do anything out of that. But, or you say, oh, he's a ditcher, he never comes. And whatever you can want to tell, you can do it. But can you sue your friend for that? Oh, why didn't you come to a movie? We all had an agreement to that effect. And we also paid the movie tickets. Maybe what you can do is you will ask refund for him. Give me your money which we had paid. But can you sue that person? Ki, why you didn't come for a movie? I'll sue you now for this. This is a wrong you have done. There was an agreement between us, but you never agreed to it. And you had agreed to it rather, and you never followed it. Can you sue that person? Okay, to sue means, okay, the word sue means to go into litigation. To sue means to go into the court of law for seeking justice. Okay, so that is what is meant by suing. That is to go now. There are various ways by which you can enforce a contract. I can go to an arbitration tribunal. That is, arbitration is a midway. If somebody is not knowing this word, have you heard about the word arbitration? Arbitration means where two of the parties, they don't go to a court, but there is a forum, or there are various ways like ad hoc. So for example, how you typically used to do in your childhood or even today If there is a fight between two person, you will call somebody else, or your another friends voluntarily comes in, and then he sorts out the differences and say, "Ha, okay, all good now," right? Yes, middlemen, perfect. In a simple language, it will be middlemen who will be. Of course, there are ways and means by which this arbitration takes place, but I'm just explaining you in a very simple manner what can be arbitration. Now, there is also one concept. This is the way by which you can enforce a contract. You can go to courts, obviously. So that is way by which you can enforce the contract. So this becomes enforcing of contract. So I hope now you understand between the two the differences, that what is a contract and what is a agreement. So if you have to go and see if with the reference to your module, first there must be an agreement. So there was an agreement, and secondly it must be enforceable by law. So this is again kind of. Okay, there is one question, ma'am. Can wait, I'll just. Ma'am, is it a contract or agreement between me and the owner of Kirana shop to pay the amount? Yes, it's a contract. Can he sue you if you don't pay the money to him? Yes, he can definitely sue you for that. That you have taken the stuff from me, you did not pay it, and now if you don't pay it, I'll take your belongings. And yes, it can be a contract. Okay. It is a contract rather. So, in terms of a contract, there are two ingredients which are important. A, there should be an agreement, and second thing, it should be enforceable by law. And what is an agreement? Like I told you, an agreement gives birth to the contract. So, first there is an agreement, and then there is a contract. So, the Indian Contract Act, as per Section 2E, defines every promise and every set of promises forming consideration for each other is an agreement. So the examples which I gave you, like whether can you take your friend, like the movie thing or the hotel or the tea example, yes, can it be said it is an agreement? Yes, it is an agreement for sure. Now, whether it is a contract, the answer is no, because it cannot be enforceable by law. Are you getting this? Because agreement is a wider concept, contract is a narrow concept. So again I'll ask you, and please help me in the chat box so that I'll understand you will have understood or not. The example which I gave you, that I generally give tea to all the students on the last day, whether and I unfortunately fell ill and I'm not able to come. Can you say this is an agreement? Yes, can you say this is an agreement? Yes, it is an agreement for sure. Because if you see, there was a promise and every set of promise now forming that consideration for each other. So here the consideration can be that, okay, I teach you and I give you or anything, but that consideration word is also important. So agreement, what we use in a general sense, and agreement what we use now, whether it can be enforceable, whether there is a consideration involved, is also very important factor. So forming the consideration for each other is also a very important factor. Okay, so every it is evident from the definition given above that an agreement is based on a promise. So a promise to do something. Now, what is a promise is what we are now going to understand. So Section 2B of the Indian Contract Act, when the person to whom the proposal is made, okay, now a proposal is being made to you that I have a furniture set with me. Now I ask everybody on this WebEx, say for example, that I have a furniture with me and I want to sell it off. I'm giving you a proposal that, okay, I've got these three laptops with me and I want to sell this. I'm giving you a proposal. So if you see the definition, when the person to whom the proposal is made signifies his assent thereto. Now, one of you from this say, ma'am, I'm happy to take that. Okay, you say, I'm happy to take that. I'm willing to pay 1,000, and I say the laptops are going to cost 20,000 rupees. If you want to purchase, you're happy to purchase. Now, one of you is saying, ma'am, yes, I'm happy to take. I'll pay you 20,000. I'm willing to take. So here, when the person to whom the proposal is made signifies his assent thereto, the proposal is said to be accepted. So this student who is going to buy the laptops from me has assented. Assented is what? Giving consent, saying yes. So gives assent thereto. The proposal is accepted. So he accepts my proposal, saying, yes, ma'am, I'm happy to take the laptops from you. Now, when a proposal, when accepted, becomes a promise. So that if I just tell you that I have got this 20 laptops with me and this every laptop is going to cost 20,000, and none of you respond to me for that matter, or none of you say, okay, I'm willing to take, or the price is too high, nobody comes. What happens? Nobody has accepted my proposal. I made a proposal, but nobody accepted it. So can it be said it is a promise from your side? Can I sue you tomorrow? Oh, I showed you the laptops in the WebEx and you all didn't say anything, but I think you have accepted it. Can I say that? The answer is no. A proposal, when accepted, becomes a promise. You would say, ma'am, when did I tell you that am going to take it? Did I promise you for that? No, we did not promise you. How can you assume that we have promised that you like we have promised you for that? So here comes the beauty of it. When the person to whom the proposal is made, if like the same example, if I have to correlate, I showed you the laptops. I say every laptop is going to cost 20,000 rupees. One of the student assented it, signifies his assent thereto. The proposal is said to be accepted. So then I can say, oh, you accepted it, right? A proposal, when accepted, becomes a promise. So that is what we understand by promise. An agreement therefore comes into existence when one party makes a proposal or offer to the other party, and that other party signifies his assent thereto. So, in a nutshell, an agreement is total of offer and acceptance. So, again, what is an agreement? Again, we are trying to see is offer plus acceptance. So, I offered you the laptops and one of the student accepted it. So, then for us, in between us, there is an agreement that I'm going to sell the laptops and the other person is going to buy that laptops. Okay. So, this is what now there is a concept which is called as agreement, plurality of persons and consensus ad idem. We see that an obligation is a legal duty to do or abstain from doing what one person has promised to do or abstain from doing. Okay, only ask, I would just request that only ask questions which are relevant to this topic so that we don't get distorted, we don't get to some other tangent, okay? Because then we lose the continuity and all the students will not understand. So to the extent, restrict your questions. Like I told you, I'll keep 10 minutes. You can answer the questions which are not relevant in terms of, and then we can go ahead, okay? Now, an obligation is a legal duty or opt or to do or abstain. What is abstain from doing? That you will not do this can also be an agreement. Okay, that I'll give you 10,000 rupees, but please don't do this. Like don't sell this land to anybody. Okay, sell it only to me. Can this be an agreement? Yes, it can be an agreement. Can it be an obligation? Yes, it can be an obligation. What one has promised to do or abstain from doing, that is not going to do. A contractual obligation arises from the bargain between the parties to the agreement, who are called the promisor and promisee. So again, if you remember the sabji mandi thing, you were bargaining, right? No, I will not pay you 500, I'll pay you only 400. So can you say there is an acceptance until you are arriving at a price point? Like whether, can you say that, oh, the proposal has now become an obligation? No, until you have come to a common grounds that 400 is the rupees And then what you do typically in the bargaining shop, you say, no, no, I'm not going to give more than 400, and you start walking. And then the person go, oh, please come here. I'll give you, I'm okay to give you for 400, right? This is where uh, uh, this is where you kind of get it. And then finally the bargain has been successful, and then you agree to pay the price, and that's why you become a promiser and a promisee. When one person is saying yes, this way you get a promiser and a promisee. So section 2b as that when a person to whom the proposal is made signifies his assent thereto, the proposal is said to be accepted, and a proposal when accepted becomes a promise. So I guess you can now correlate with this. So in broad sense, therefore, a contract is an exchange. There is an exchange, right? You will do this, I'll do this. Promises by two or more persons resulting in an obligation. There is an obligation. Please remember, obligation is where you have the legal duty to. And when you have a legal duty, it is an enforceable contract. You can't just sue which is not legally enforceable. So the gun pointing, can the person say, oh, he was liable to pay that land, or the land should have been mine because he had promised me to do that? No, there was no legal duty because he was put under gunpoint. Yes. So, in a broader sense, therefore, a contract is an exchange of promises by two or more persons, resulting in an obligation to do or abstain from doing a particular thing, where such obligation is recognized and enforceable by law. So, this enforceable by law is a very important component. Unless you have this component, you cannot say that it is a contract. Now, rights and obligation. This is what I was explaining you. A agrees. Now, there are rights, there are obligation. Now, I say that, okay, I'm going to give you 500 books, and these books are for 100 rupees. And you say, oh, right, 500 books we are getting only for 100 rupees. So, there is a promise from my end. You are agreeing to it. Plus, I have a right to receive the money from you, right? I have the right to receive the money when I give the books to you. I have an obligation to give the books to you. So I've got two things. I've got a right, and as well as I've got an obligation. What is my right? If I give you the books, I have the right to get that 100 rupees from you. Plus, I have an obligation to give that books to you. So that's why the contractual rights and obligations are correlative. In this example, so A is under, that's what I'm saying, that I have a right as well as obligation, whereas you also have the right to receive the books, and you have an obligation to pay that 100 rupees to me, is what this is being said. So yes, obligation means a legal duty. Obligation means a liability, of course, but it is not always a liability. It can be, most of the times, yes, it is a liability. So agreements which are not contracts. So this is what I was discussing at the initial stage. Agreements in which the idea of bargain is absent and there is no intention to create legal relations are not contracts. So typically, like we have given the examples where I ask you that, okay, let's the tea example which I gave you, that I asked my students, I'll give you tea, and I fell ill. This was an agreement, but there is no bargain involved and there is no intention to create legal relation. So agreements relating to social matters cannot be enforceable. So if I invite you for dinner, and then at the last moment I'm saying, no, no, please, I'm having some other guests coming and I'm not able to give you the dinner, you can't sue me for that, right? So no, there is no disturbance from my side. I guess you should work on your mic, okay? Domestic arrangements between husband and wife. So this is a famous case, Balfour versus Balfour. A husband working in Ceylon had agreed to, in writing, to pay a housekeeping allowance to his wife living in England. So on receiving information that she was unfaithful to him, he stopped the allowance. He was held to be entitled to do so. This was a mere domestic arrangement. therefore not a contract. So you can't enforce that contract, right? Because it was just a husband wife thing which had happened, or in arrangement between husband wife, unless of course if there is a decree by a court, like you must have heard about maintenance and all, or things like that. After divorce, these are different things because it is a court order that has to be followed. But this is a general household understanding. So, can you sue your father? Oh, you decided to give me pocket money. Now you're not giving me pocket money. How can you do so to me? No, it cannot be, because it is a social, it is like a domestic arrangement between you and your father, and you cannot do it unless, of course, you both are have entered into a contract, or you have entered into your contract and are legally enforceable. Because here there is no yeah, there is no legally enforcement, because you have not created legal relations. Now, like I told you, if tomorrow there is an internal understanding between you and your brother that I'll take this property, I'm selling this property to you, you're intending to create a legal relation, that you're intending that this land will become of your brother. You're intending that the brother will give you some X amount of rupees. So here you're entering into a legal relation, and that is the intention. So intention becomes important as well. Okay. Now there are three consequences which flow from the above discussion. To constitute a contract, the party must intend to create legal relation. Again, the same example I gave you of father and giving you pocket money, there is no intention to create legal relation. But when your father is willing to sell that land to you, or is willing to make you a legally owner of a particular piece of property, that is where there is an intention to create legal relation. No, it is not coming from my side. If you see, I have a headphone here. If you have an headphone, I don't think there is a there is some noise which you may get. So okay, so you have to check your own things. Section 10 of the Indian Contract Act. Section 10 of the Indian Contract Act. Please concentrate. Uh, Here, all agreements are contracts if they are made by the free consent of parties competent to contract. Yes, somebody's microphone is there. I also checked here. I don't think it is from my side. Yes, somebody's microphone can be on, possible. Okay, now please concentrate here. Is it better now? I don't think there is a problem. If I put a headphone, I don't understand how you're able to hear noises. Yes, I've seen, I've got perfectly. No, I don't think why the noise should come, because if I put a headphone, yeah, let me see. Nikhat, are you able to also hear some noises? If you can help me. Okay, I'm getting mixed of chats. If you see that you're saying voices are coming, you're saying voices are not coming, so I'm getting confused. Nikhat, are you there? Okay, just a moment. I don't understand what's happening, but Nikhat, are you there? No, loud banging of vessels and all definitely is not happening at my end. I don't agree to this. I don't know what's happening. No, I don't understand. A restaurant? No, I don't have a restaurant at home. Okay, fine. I guess I'll remove the headset if you are not comfortable. I thought it was easy, but let's go the normal way. I don't know. Okay, fine. Uh, Essentials of a valid contract. Now, is it okay? Okay, fine. Essentials of a valid contract. Uh, this is a very important section, and you need to concentrate on this. Section 10 of the Indian Contract Act is a very, very important section, and you need to focus on this. This is where you get all the elements of a valid contract. The essentials of a valid contract are an offer or proposal by one party and acceptance of that offer by another party resulting in an agreement. So whenever, like if I have to give you an example that I agreed for 500 rupees buying, you agreed for buying the furniture set from me for 500 rupees. I was giving you an offer, you accepted it by saying that okay, I'm going to pay 500 rupees. So an offer or proposal by one party and acceptance of that of another party resulting in an agreement is called as consensus ad idem. Consensus ad idem. So consensus ad idem is a very important thing because there is a consensus of mind. There is an agreement that, okay, what I'm doing and what you are doing. Okay. So, yes, similar thoughts. But now, for example, if I show you, okay, this is the book I'm selling. Okay. You think that I'm selling the book on Indian Contract Act, whereas I'm selling the book on company law. Is there a meeting of minds? And I say, okay, this is the book I'm purchasing for 500. No, there is no consensus of ad idem because I am thinking that I'm selling the book of company law while you are thinking I'm selling the book of Indian Contract Act. So maybe the price is agreed that that 500 rupees is what the book for. But there is no consensus ad idem because there is no meeting of minds at all. Okay, the book which I'm saying is different, the book which you are interpreting that I'm selling is different. So there is no consensus ad idem at all, and that's why this cannot be a contract. Though we have agreed to 500 rupees, there is a consideration involved. I have given you proposal, there is an offer, there is an acceptance, but there is no consensus ad idem because I'm thinking of selling a different book and you are thinking of buying a different book. So that's why this become consensus ad idem, and there is no consensus ad idem, so there cannot be a valid contract. Again, we saw we have deliberated enough on intention to create legal relationship and to have legal consequences. The agreement is supported by a lawful consideration. Now, if there is a person who just is in the middle of the road, he just makes your car wait and then say, "Give me 100 rupees or I'll break your car." The person gives it. Is there a lawful consideration for what he is asking, or whether do you think there is an intention to create legal relation? either of them is not missing, either of them is missing. So supported by lawful consideration. So that is a very important feature, because there is, if somebody is put at a gunpoint, you cannot enforce such contract. It is not a lawful consideration. Or typically, if A gives what we typically call in Hindi giving a supari, right? If A says, okay, kill this person B and I will give you 1 lakh rupees. Now there is a meeting of minds. Answer is yes. Is there a consensus ad idem? Answer is yes. Whether it is a lawful consideration, the answer is no. Because it is not a lawful consideration, it is a crime under Indian Penal Code. So that's why it is not a lawful consideration at all. The parties to the contract are legally, then we come to the another thing. The parties to a contract are legally capable of contracting. So if a small kid says that, I said to the small kid that okay, you have to pay me 500 rupees, I'll give you this toy, and he is not accompanied by his parents, he just comes up and he gives and I give and say, oh, give me that 500 rupees now, and he's a small kid. Do you think the kid said, okay, I want that and I'll give you? Is this a contract? The answer is no, because it is a small kid. The person must be legally capable of contracting, or a person who is of unsound mind is also not that. Okay, I've enough explained consensus ad idem. Now I can't go because I'll never finish my portion if I just keep on explaining everything again and again. Okay. The parties to a contract are legally enforceable, genuine consent. So that's what we saw, that somebody putting at a gunpoint, somebody is putting at a threat, undue influence, which we are going to see in detail in the later portion. The object and consideration is legal and not opposed to public policy. So that, like I told you, A agrees to murder B and getting 1 lakh of rupees. This is opposed to public policy because it is a crime under the Indian Penal Code. So you cannot say that this is a contract is legal, though there is an agreement of mind, consensus ad idem, everybody knows, both the parties know what to do, but it is opposed to public policy. The terms of the contract are certain. There is a certainty to the contract. Is any age criteria? Yes. Legally, like we all know, 18 years is the age where you attain your maturity, and any so that there is a famous case of Mori Bibi versus Dharmdas Ghosh. Now you don't have it, so I'm not taking it. But yes, so 18 above 18 years is also there. That is for marriage. 21 sometimes is for marriage. So the object and consideration of contract is legal. The terms of contract are certain. The agreement is capable of being performed. It is not impossible. So if I say, okay, I'm selling Taj Mahal for 1 crore of rupees. Now, is it an agreement which is possible to perform? No, you cannot sell Taj Mahal. Nobody, you and me cannot sell Taj Mahal. So it is impossible to perform. So this is what agreement. Or if I say, oh, I've got a now in today's world, if I say, oh, if I do something like this, COVID will run away. Is this how? And you pay me 1,000 rupees for that. You say, ma'am has gone mad. She doesn't understand. It is an impossible thing to perform, right? If I do like this and the COVID will go away. So this is an impossible. You can't say it is being performed or COVID will go just away by doing this. Therefore, to form a valid contract, there must be an agreement based on genuine consent, supported by lawful consideration, made for a lawful object. The object, of course, should be lawful and between the competent parties. Yes, I'll do magic. I wish I could do some magic and the COVID runs away. Um, Offer or proposal and acceptance. One of the early steps in formation of contract lies in arriving at an agreement between contracting parties by means of an offer and acceptance. Thus, when a party makes a definite proposal, this is what I was talking about, that I show you a contract book, you are expecting a company law book, that is where without any qualification. So the earlier thing, sabji mandi, I said we discussed, the person was saying 500, you were saying 400. So it is with a qualification still. Then there is a meeting. So if once you agree everything that okay, I'll purchase this and you have to give me 10 rupees chili for free for that or something like that, then there is a qualification which you are putting. Then also it might not be unless it is agreed by the other person. So this is a synonymous word which you have to remember. A proposal is also termed as an offer. So offer, proposal, same thing. Somebody did ask me in the chat, so again, still we didn't had come to up to here, so I did not answer it. The word proposal is synonymous to offer. An offer is a proposal by one person where he expresses his willingness to enter into a contractual obligation in return for a promise, act, or forbearance. So, Section 2A defines when one person signifies to another his willingness to do or abstain from doing anything with a view to obtaining the assent of that person to such act or abstinence, he is said to make a proposal. So this is a very complicated thing, I know. If I have to simplify this, I'll explain you. Like the whole examples all we have discussed is I'm making you an offer, not and why I'm making an offer, so that somebody will accept it to do, like to purchase the book. So his another his willingness to do that, he is okay to purchase the book, or abstain from doing this, that okay, don't do this particular thing and I'll pay you for that, and with a view to obtaining the assent. So I'm interested that somebody should provide an assent so that I'm able to sell that book, right? He's said to make a proposal. So here, for example, there can be so many examples which you see now and then, just you don't understand sometimes. So say for example, a bus, you stand at a bus stand and there are so many buses which are going. Is it a proposal? What do you think? Can you say it is a proposal? Yes, it is a proposal. Why is the bus standing there, or why the bus stops at a particular bus stand? Because they are making an offer to you. Whether you want to come to a particular destination, this bus is going. Now, when you accept that, when you accept it, it is said to be accepted when you get into the bus and you check it, right? I want to go to a particular destination. If that is not the destination, you again get out of the bus. Yes, so whether this is said to be an offer, yes, it is an offer. You get into a bus means you have accepted that offer, that yes, I want to go to a destination where this bus is getting. So when person signifies to another his willingness to do or abstain is what is being said to make a proposal. The person making the proposal or offer is called a proposer or offerer, and the person to whom the proposal is made is called as offeree. So rules, offer must be clear, definite, complete, and final. So like I told you, now for example, there is an offer that I'm selling this horse A. Now horse A is of white color. You think the horse is of B, I'm selling it of black color. There is no consensus ad idem, there is no complete offer. Or I'll give you, I say that okay, I'm taking a trip to Kashmir. I don't define when the trip is, where the trip, like what time the trip is. Is it a complete offer? No, it's okay, when are you doing it? But so it is not a complete offer. It is not a final offer as well, so it cannot be a vague offer. Like I say okay, I will now this is also a vague offer because I have not helped you that when exactly I'm going to take you to Kashmir. So this is not a offer which is not complete, not clear, not final, is cannot be said to be a complete offer. So you cannot say it is an offer because all the ingredients of clear, definite, complete, and final are missing. It is also very vague. An offer must be communicated to the offeree. So it should be communicated to you, right? If I say that, oh, I am going to sell this, and I just come here and say, oh, you had accepted it. I said, okay, when did I communicate? Now, for example, if I have to continue the same example where I'm selling this book, okay, and I say, okay, this is a book which I want to sell. Any of the students which are willing to take it, please take it. I'm selling it for 500. Now I've given you a definite offer. It is complete. I'm giving you, and I'll say, okay, I'll post it. Once you pay me, I'll give you that book in 2 days. So the offer is complete, final, everything is there. But what is missing is if I say, and I just catch hold of one student saying, so you said that you're going to accept it. It will say, ma'am, when did I communicate that I'm going to take that book? How can you say me that 500 rupees I'm payable? I never accepted it, right? You're going to say me that. So the offer must be to be communicated to the offeree, and the person should be accepting it. So an offer becomes effective only when it has been communicated to the offeree so as to give him an opportunity to reject or accept it. So that acceptance or rejection is very important. The communication on offer may be made by express words or oral or written. So a communication may be by express words that okay fine I'll take it, or you just send me that 500 rupees directly. Is it an acceptance of that offer? Yes, what do you think? No? Why? If you send me 500 rupees, I'm saying this is a book which I'm selling, and you send me directly 500 rupees. Isn't it an acceptance on your part? Yes, it is an acceptance. You did not say by words, but you have impliedly told me that I'm willing to take it. You have sent this, this man, this is a 500 rupees. Directly, I get a say, and you write me an email, or you just orally say, ma'am, this is what I have given you, that 500. So it may be implied by conduct. This is what I was saying. If you send me directly the 500 rupees, it is implied by conduct that you have accepted my offer, right? So this is an implied acceptance. Yes, the offer and acceptance, if you see, more or less all the things are similar. So I'm going to explain in detail the offer and the acceptance related thing, which are almost similar. You're going to take it on your own because it is the same way what we are discussing about an offer. The communication of the offer may be general or specific. So you see a newspaper advertisements, right? Where there is a general offer. So an offer is made to general, a public at large. So whether this is an offer, yes, this is also an offer. Where an offer is made to a specific person, it is called a specific offer. So even the kirana shops, or you say it's a general offer, anybody can come in and buy. The bus stands, right? It's a general offer to everybody who wants to get into the bus, they have accepted it. But otherwise, it is a general offer. The railways, how do they function? It's a open offer. You come, you if you're willing to take, fine, go ahead, buy your ticket and get into a railway. So that is an open offer. It is not like, oh, please come here, Dipti, are you interested to in this bus? They don't give me a specific offer. Yes, about store, yes, all stores would be a open offer. Whenever there is a general thing and not to a specific purpose, it becomes a general offer. Now the question is when the offer lapse. The offer gets lapse if it is not accepted within the specified time. So I say you within 7 days, please come, or else you will, the offer is going to lapse. This is a typical thing which you see. That offer is being said, this is the 7 days within which you have to convey your acceptance. If you are not, then the offer is lapsed. So similarly, for example, if you have to enroll for a course, right? There is an offer. 31st May is the last date for the application or to payment of fees. If you don't fill, then the offer is lapsed. You can't go further on that. It is accepted in the mode prescribed, or if no mode is prescribed, in the usual and reasonable manner. So if they say that you have to convey your acceptance by way of an email, then that becomes a specified mode in which you have to convey your acceptance. If you don't convey, if you verbally say me and I expected a written email from you, I say, okay, I'm going to give you this book, but you have to give it an email of acceptance in writing. So if I've prescribed a mode of communication for acceptance or to accept my offer, and if you don't follow it, I'll say you never gave me a written email, and that's why I sold it to other person. So if that mode is prescribed, you have to go by the mode which is being prescribed. The offeree rejects it by distinct refusal. To accept it, either the offerer or offeree dies before acceptance. The acceptor fails to fulfill a condition precedent to an acceptance. So I say that you have to show. So for example, if I extend this, I say that I need to understand if you are a company law student, then only I'll give you this company law book. So this is a condition precedent to acceptance. So I've put a condition. So if you don't qualify that conditions, I will not be able to sell that book to you because it is a condition which you have to accept. The offeree makes a counter offer. So that Sabji Mandi thing, it is a counter offer. He is offering for 500. You say, no, 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 I'm going to pay only 400 rupees. So this is a counter offer. It amounts to rejection of the offer. So you have rejected that 500 rupees offer and you are making a counter offer of 400 rupees. Now, an offer by the offeree may be accepted or rejected by the offerer. Now, that 400 rupees is something you have made a counter offer to the 500 rupees, and you have indirectly rejected that 500 rupees offer, and you have made a fresh offer or a counter offer, and that offer which you have made now it can be either accepted or rejected by the original offerer. Okay, you get this example? Okay, I'll explain you again. Counter offer. Take the example, the same example, you are into a vegetable market. There is a vegetable. The person says, I'm selling this mangoes for 500 rupees. Okay. You say, no, no, no. There is a rain which is coming. The mangoes may not be good for eating. I'll take it only for 400 rupees. Now, the original offer was for 500 rupees. What you have done is you have rejected that 500 rupees offer, and you are giving a counter offer that I'll purchase it for 400 rupees. Yes, what we typically call it as a bargain, but you have rejected that offer and gave a counter offer that if you want to sell, I'm going to purchase it at only 400 rupees. So if you now correlate with this sentence, an offer by the offeree may be accepted or rejected by the offerer. So here the 400 rupees counter offer you are making, it can be rejected or accepted. The person may say yes or no, depending upon what he has to say. Okay. The revocation of offer. Offer may be revoked by the offerer at any time before acceptance. So say for example, the same book offer which I have to say, if there is a book which I'm selling and unfortunately I see, oh, I'm needing that book. So before is their acceptance, I say, no, 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 sorry, I wanted to sell that book, but now I'm no more interested. So I have revoked my offer. What is revoking? Is to withdraw that offer, is to take back the offer, that the offer is no more valid from my side. So I say, no, 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 sorry, I'm not able to sell that book now. I have revoked my offer. That is, I have withdrawn my offer. Revocation must be communicated to the offeree, as it does not take effect until it is actually communicated to the offeree. So say for example, I just say I forgot to tell you that I need that book and somebody just gave me that 500 rupees. Now forget about this in the normal scenarios like what I'm explaining. But you would always say you never told us that this offer is withdrawn, right? The revocation must be communicated to the offeree. So the offeree, it should be communicated, and that's why if you see, they say, okay, the bookings are full now, or this is closed, because they're communicated that no, we are no longer going to take this. Before its actual communication, the offeree may accept the offer and create a binding contract. So here, before it was being actually communicated, if somebody acts upon it, then it can create a binding contract. The revocation must reach the offeree before he sends out the acceptance. An offer to keep open for a specified time option is not binding unless it is supported by consideration. Now, I'll give you a very example which can you will obviously understand. Now there is an offer in the stores, right? 100 40% discount on Levi's all product, or 40% discount on all Nike shoes. Okay, this is an open offer, right? This is an open offer. Is it binding? And if they just withdraw that 40% discount, is it binding? You say, no, 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 but I read in the news that you're giving 40% discount on Nike shoes. Now I've specially come here to buy that Nike shoes, and you're saying, no, 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 no. How is that possible? Then this picture comes into picture. I know it's an amazing offer. An offer to keep open for a specific time option is not binding unless it is supported by consideration. So Nike may say, oh, what is the consideration flowing from you if we give you 40% discount? The answer is no. You are not giving any consideration for that 40% discount. So that's why it can be an offer to keep open for a specified time option is not binding. So you cannot say that, no, 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 you have to give that 40% discount. No, you can't enforce that because it is not supported by consideration. So I hope this is clear to you, what is offer, how when it gets lapsed, what is revocation. Now we're going to see acceptance And the terms for acceptance are more or less similar to what we have discussed in offer. So you can easily correlate by reading it on yourself. But I will help you with what is acceptance. A contract emerges from the acceptance of an offer. Okay. So the acceptance is what? Okay, I agree to do or I agree not to do a particular thing. So it can be either ways. So either I'm saying this is a land, don't sell this land, give me, I'll give you 1000 rupees. Yes, this is also an acceptance of the offer. Acceptance is the act of assenting by the offeree to an offer. So 2B, Contract Act, when a person to whom the proposal is made signifies his assent thereto, the proposal is said to be accepted. Now this, if you see, it is the same thing which we have in the offer. So like I told you, I'm not going to go into details of it. You can read it on your own. It is as similar to what offer. It must be express and particular method of acceptance. So it is more or less similar to the provisions of offer. Okay. Now I'm going to take is contracts over telephone. Contracts over telephone are binding. What do you say? Yes. Yes, those are the same way. Contracts over the telephone are regarded in the same principle as those negotiated by parties in the actual presence of each other. So, yes, in both cases, an oral offer is made and oral acceptance is expected. Now, like we were having in the initial, I was if I made that offer when I was not clear or it was not audible to you, can it be said it is being given an offer? No. You say, ma'am, we didn't hear you at all. You were not audible. So that clear offer, complete offer, the other party should understand, consensus ad idem, all these things should be present in order this contract be valid. So if during the conversation the telephone line goes dead and offerer does not hear the offeree's word, there is no contract. Okay. Now we are going to see intention to create legal relation. I guess we have discussed this. I'll just see if I have to cover a particular point. Intention, the intention where necessary. Yes. So if it goes to a court of law, the court will look into intention. Yes, I guess this is very clear. Consideration. Now, consideration is a very important ingredient of a contract. Okay, it is a very important ingredient of a contract. Consideration is one of the essential elements of valid contract. The requirement of consideration stems from the policy of extending the arm of law to enforcement of mutual promises of parties. So if I say you, okay, I'll donate 500 rupees to the COVID fund which has been created. Can you enforce this contract? No, there is no consideration from flowing. It's just a donation. It is as per the will of mine, so it cannot be said to have a consideration for it. It is only when a promise is made for something in return from the promise that such promise can be enforced by law against the promiser. So it can be enforceable until there is some consideration involved. Now, Section 2D of the Indian contract defines consideration when, at the desire of the promiser, the promisee or any person has done or abstained from doing, or does or abstains from doing, or promises to do or abstain from doing something, such act or abstinence or promise is called a consideration for the promise. In simple terms, you accept to pay 500 rupees, or you say, okay, I'm not going to take this, you give me another copy and I'll pay you 400 rupees. So in a way there is some consideration. It can be monetary, it can be by way of other, like a land which is being sold. What is a consideration? The person is selling the land, the other person is giving the money, so there is a consideration which is being involved. So for a party, A is selling land to B, so at 10 lakh of rupees. So the consideration flowing from A to B is the land, and the consideration from B to A is that 10 lakh rupees for which he is selling that land. The consideration at the desire of the promiser. Section 2D of the Act begins with a statement: consideration must move at the desire or request of the promisor. This means that whatever is done must have done at the desire of the promisor and not voluntarily. So, like I told you, 10 lakh A is willing to sell that land. So here, I know there might be some disturbances now because you are not able to hear from the headphones. So sorry about the disturbance. Don't flood my chat box with all those. Okay, just ignore it for a while and concentrate on what I'm speaking. If A rushes to B, now there is a fire, and A rushes to B's house for help, there is no consideration. You're doing it voluntarily. You can't say that, oh, you have to give me 100 rupees because I went there and I just took care of it, right? But if A goes to B at B's request, B say, okay, please help me, I'll give you. Now the fireman or the persons, they say, please take out this, the entire stuff out of the house. It's on fire. You're ready to pay, and then there is a consent consideration which is flowing. So gratuitous act cannot be termed as having consideration. In English law, consideration must move from the promisee so that stranger to the consideration cannot sue on the contract. A person seeking to enforce a simple contract must prove in court that he himself has given the consideration in return for the promise he is seeking to enforce. Okay, so in Indian law, however, consideration may move from the promisee. So this is a famous case, Chinnaya versus Ramaya. A lady by a deed of gift made over certain property to her daughter, directing her to pay an annuity to donors' brothers. So her daughter had to pay something to her brother, as done before she gifted the property. So before she gifted the property, she was paying her brother the annuity. On the same day, her daughter executed in writing in favor of the donor's brother, agreeing to pay the annuity. So the daughter agreed, okay, I'll pay your brother the annuity. The court, now later on, the daughter declined to fulfill her promise to pay her uncle, saying, oh, what consideration you have given me? The court held that the uncle could sue even though no part of consideration received by his niece moved from him. The consideration from her mother was sufficient consideration. So annuity is a annual payment which is being made. So annually some amount is being agreed to pay. That is what is meant by annuity. So let me check what we have left. So we will either take, I'll move on to the logical reasoning. Uh, okay, I'll take a bit of consideration so that we finish consideration, and then we can move on from next lecture onwards to the other portions. So privity of contract, that is what is meant by privity of contract, means a stranger to a contract cannot sue. Now, if this is a very famous case, Dunlop Pneumatic Tire Company versus Selfridge. So now here what this case is, and I'll go specifically to this case because the person who is not a party to a contract cannot sue it or enforce that contract. Now, how this comes into picture, see. D supplied tires to a wholesaler X on a condition that any retailer to whom X resupplied the tires should promise X not to sell below the listed price. So, say for example, I am the manufacturer of tires. I sell the tires to you saying, okay, I'm selling you the tires, but since I'm a manufacturer, I can regulate the prices. So don't sell these tires below, say, 1,000 rupees. I'm saying you don't sell. You can sell it 1,100, 1,200, 1,500, but don't sell it below 1,000 rupees, is what was being agreed. X supplied the tires to S upon this condition, but despite this condition on which the manufacturers sold, S sold the tires below the list price. So, say for example, he sold it for 900 rupees. It was agreed though between the manufacturer and wholesaler that don't sell these tires below 1,000 rupees. But despite this condition, the tires were being sold to the purchaser at say 900 rupees. Now the question is whether I as a manufacturer can sue you because you have sold it for 900 rupees. Did you get this? So now the question is, understand under with whom the contracts are. There is a contract between A and B that you cannot sell the tires for less than 1000 rupees, and there is a contract which is between B and a purchaser. Like I need a tires for my car. I went to this B and say, okay, please put the tires for my vehicle. So he sold that tires for 900. Now, is there a connection between me and the manufacturer? The answer is no. The contract is between A and B that not to sell below 1000, and there is a separate contract between B and me selling it for 900 rupees. So here this A is not a party to the contract in between me and B, whereas I am also not a party to the contract between A and B, right? So this is what is called as a privity of contract, that if that person is not a party to the contract, the transaction between me and the wholesaler, this person is not a party to the contract, so he cannot sue under that contract, because this is what is being held. There was a contract between D and X and a contract between X and S. So this is one contract, this is one contract. Therefore, D could not sue, obtain damages from S, as D had not given any consideration for S's promise to X, nor was he party to the contract. So this contract is different. This contract parties are different. So if A sues me, or if A sues in this particular case me, that how can you buy this tires at 900 rupees? No, I say I'm not party to your contract. I have a different contract. In this, there is no stipulation. So a stranger to a contract cannot sue the parties unless he himself is a party to that contract. Okay. So this is what it is about privity of contract. I'll quickly take kinds of consideration, executory or future. So the earlier question which you raised, that ma'am, I'm telling you that I'll purchase the vegetables from the, or I'll purchase a grocery from the grocery shop, but I'll pay you tomorrow. This paying tomorrow is the executory or future, which means it makes the form of promise to be performed in future. Exactly the first example is related to it. You are taking the groceries now, but you have agreed to pay at a future date. So next date is becomes executory or future. Executed or present, that okay, you take this grocery, give 100 rupees, is executory or present. You're taking by one hand, fulfilling it by another, same time. Executed or present. Past means you had done something in the past, and for that I'm paying you today. Okay, that oh, I know that I had taken a loan from you for 1 lakh of rupees. You had given me it in the past, so I'm paying it to you for today because today I've got the money. So past, which means a past act of forbearance, an act constituting consideration which took place and is complete before the promise is made. Every simple contract must be supported by valuable consideration, otherwise it is formally void to subjects. Consideration may be an act of abstinence or promise. There must be mutuality. Each party must to do or something. Like I said, there is one thing flowing from another and the other flowing from the person. Charity is of course not enforceable. Consideration must be real. If I say, okay, give me 1000 rupees and I'll give you a magic stick, you will say, ma'am has gone mad. This is not a valid consideration. Please don't go to her, right? Because there is no magic stick, is what we understand. So it cannot be imaginary, indefinite, illusory, etc., etc., etc. Consideration must have value, it need not be adequate. So if the market rate of mangoes is going 500 but somebody is selling at me at 5 rupees, can you say this is not a consideration? The answer is no, because even the market rate is 500 and this person is selling at 5 rupees does not mean that it should be at of market value or as per adequate. If it is in the need of the person, is selling it me at 5 rupees, it's fine. It's still a consideration, despite the market rate is 500. Consideration must be lawful, is what we have already understood. Consideration must be to something more than a promise is already bound to do for a promiser. Thus, an agreement to perform an existing obligation made with a person to whom the obligation is already owed is not made for consideration. So, if I've agreed to pay 500 rupees to you for a book which you are giving me, and you do something else to me, and I say, oh, I give you 500 rupees, right? No, that is already I'm obligated to do. That cannot be utilized for some other purpose. So it must be something more. You can't say, oh, which is an existing obligation. You say, ma'am, it's your existing obligation to pay 500 rupees. How can you say that you can use that? Okay. Uh, when consideration is not necessary. So when consideration is not necessary, these are the examples. I'll when there is, of course, a gratuitous act which we have already seen. If it is expressed in writing and registered, is made out of natural love and affection between the parties standing in near relation. So if it is expressed in writing and registered, so basically gift deed is what we understand, where say for example the parents gift a flat or something like that to the daughter or son, and they make it writing that this is a flat which will be given uh, to my son or daughter. So that's how it is. It is expressed in writing and registered. Since it's a gift deed and all, it has to be registered. Or in terms of a land, of course, it has to be registered. If it is made to compensate a person who has already done something voluntarily for the promiser or done something. So here in the first example, like gift deed, there is no consideration flowing. The daughter or son is not giving anything to the father or mother. It is a writing and it is expressed as a gift deed. There is no consideration flowing, but still it is a valid contract if the conditions are satisfied. Similarly, if it is made to compensate a person who has already done something voluntarily. So already he has done something voluntarily, then of course, or done something which the promiser was legally compellable to do. So then there is no consideration which is required. It is a promise in writing and signed by the person to be charged thereafter or by his agent to pay a debt barred by law of limitation. So there is a law of limitation. So say for example, within if I say 10 years back, you were supposed to pay me something. Now that is barred by law of limitation. The court will never enforce it. They will say, why were you sleeping for 10 years if you had to enforce your rights? But if I put it in writing that I know that this is a time barred debt, that is the law of limitation applies. You cannot go to a court. You cannot sue me for that because time has lapsed, but I make it in writing that I'll pay you this, then there is no consideration required. Agency contract we are going to see in detail. In case of gift actually made, no consideration is necessary. There need not be nearness of real relation, and even if it is, there need not be any natural love. So, gift any stranger gifts you anything or something like that, there may not be any natural love or affection, but still it can be nearness. Okay. Yes, I know there are 5 minutes left. I'm going quickly to the logical reasoning part. Do you have any questions till I open this? Yes, section you will have to remember because it is great if you remember those sections, then that will be easy for you to understand. Okay, we are going to see this cause and effect relationship. Cause and effect relationship. I guess these are very simple things, and that's why I don't take too much of time on this because law part, if you read, it is not very easy for you to understand. Whereas logical reasoning, sometimes those questions are really very simple. Okay, now this is a cause and effect relationship which you have to study. So everybody should work hard is one statement. So they'll ask, okay, what is the relation between the two statements made? So everybody must work hard. The only way to achieve success is to work hard. Now, is there a cause and effect relationship that one is the cause and another is the effect? Now, there is a thing which is called as dependent reason. So now I expect you to answer these questions to me, which you believe is right. So here, option A is obviously statement 1 is the reason and statement 2 is the response. This is a reason why you should work, everybody should work hard, and statement 2 is the response. Response is means there is an action. If you simple see, there is an action which is coming out. The only way to achieve success is to work hard. So is to work hard is the action on your part. So the statement 1 becomes the reason and statement 2 is the response. So then, of course, what are the types of statement? Now, if you see these kinds of statement, there will be a direct reason and response. This is a reason which is there is a direct reason and because of which you will see. Now, apple has vitamin D in boosting immunity. Doctors advise to eat an apple every day. What do you think? Statement 1 is the reason and statement 2 is the response. What do you think? What is the answer? Can somebody tell? Yes, B is the answer, not because it is being seen over here. The reason being, this is a reason to describe its response, where a statement tells the necessity of consuming apple. It is a statement. And what is the effect? Doctors advise to eat an apple every day. So, statement 2 is the reason and statement 1 is the response. So, why you should eat apple is the reason for it, right? The reason being doctor's advice, and then apple is being so the first thing is becomes statement 2 is the reason and statement 1 is the necessity to consume an apple. So this is what it is. Then what are the type 2? Here the response is a common reason. Now A, there was a direct reason. 2, it is a common reason. Type 2 statements, these are the common reasons that is commonly we know. Here both the statements will be the response of some common reason. So both the statements are response, but there is a common reason attached to it. Now this is now not new to us. There has been a curfew in the city past 3 months. Curfew in the city is not at all new to us, and 24 hours police patrolling is going on in the city. Now what do you think? This both statements are of common reason. Now to relate it to what we are having, it's curfew in the city and 24 hours patrolling. Now there is no cause and effect, right? It is not there, because if you see there is a COVID, if I give you, this is a common cause for it, that there is a curfew and 24 hours patrolling is being done in the city. Clearly, both the statements are directing towards a common reason. To simplify our thought process, we can assume that for some reason, so like I told you, Hindu-Muslim right, I told you about COVID. There is a common reason. 24 hours patrolling you see, and there is a curfew. Okay. Then type 3 statements are, the two statements are the response of some not dependent reason. So there is not dependent. There has been a curfew in the city. This is the statement 1, and doctors advise to eat an apple. Now there is no connection between two sentences, not at all. You say, okay, what has to do with the curfew, and again, what has to do with the doctors eating and advising an apple every day? There is no correlation. There is no kind of reasoning, and that's why we can clearly analyze one thing, that eating apple and curfew is not connected to each other. There's no relation. There is no dependency on two statements. Okay. Now that's just the third type. Types of cause and effect. And I'm going to complete this. Again, we'll do the next things for the, we will be completing this chapter of the, and this logical reasoning chapter we are going to complete in the next lecture. And I'll also be taking contracts. Okay. So cause and effect. This is an immediate cause. This cause that has occurred most recently. Now, water is heated by the sun and evaporates into atmosphere. Once in the atmosphere, it cools down a very low temperature and precipitates as snow. There are a few causes. So the most immediate being the fact of the raindrops freeze in the low temperature. So the immediate cause. Then what is the principal cause? The cause is responsible for an event and independent cause is independent of the events. In other words, the effect and cause may not have a direct relation. We are seeing the statements, so that becomes easy for you. Okay. The fact that first statement is the effect of that mentioned in the second statement. Uh, this, if you read this, this becomes very complicated sometimes. But if you solve examples, it becomes very easy for you. Okay, so I would just want you to go through the examples, and then it becomes very easy for you to understand. So if we go direct to the sample questions, uh, the prices of vegetables have increased considerably during this summer. There is a tremendous increase in the temperature during this summer, thereby damaging the crops. So, what is the answer? Yes. What is the answer? Yes. So, answer is B, because damage to the crops due to high temperature is a result in a short supply of vegetable, and hence an increase in the principal prices. Sorry. So that's what it is. Police resorted to lathi charge to disperse the unlawful gathering or large numbers. The citizens forum called a general strike in protest against the police atrocities. So what is the answer? Clearly, the people's mass protest against police might have instigated. So that is what it is. That because of the police protest, people's protest, the police did the lathi charge. So now we are going to end this session today. I don't think, if you see these are very complicated things, if you still have any doubt, please you can let me know. Please don't bombard my inbox, my WhatsApp on the questions which are not related. If even if you ask me to take some chapters, I will not, because there is a paucity of time. I have to complete something. So please don't expect that I'll go through each and every sentence in this module. I would love to, but I'm not able to. Okay. Uh, in with respect to the queries on the timings of the sessions, days, I guess there are clear instructions. We are having alternate days, and it is at 9:15. So please don't bombard with me. I'd still try to explain, but it is not possible. I receive almost 50, 60 WhatsApps and emails. I can't respond to all. I have unfortunately limitation on my time. So if there is something specific questions I've answered, if not, please don't get offended by it. Obviously, you can't dictate me to take particular scene, because I've seen such emails, and I'm very sorry to say, but you have to improve on your business communication skills, how you approach a person. I see very horrible emails, which is saying, ma'am, please, there is just, please take this lecture, please take this 1, 2, 3. You cannot direct me, you cannot do like this. You have to improve your business communication skills. If you are asking, it should be in a very positive manner, it should be in a very dignified and respectful manner to anybody, not just me. So the email writing is what you should improve. You should put a subject, you should put the exact things. Start like, I like acting like a professional. You're soon going to be a professional. Okay, so I end this lecture today. If you have doubts relating to law on what I have taken, I'm happy to respond. But if you ask me to take particular things and this and that, I am restrained from answering sometimes because of the paucity of time at my level. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Take care of yourself. And my apologies if there is some disturbance, but I try to avoid. But technical things are beyond our control sometimes, and you will have to, and we and I have to live with it. Okay. Thank you so much. Take care and see you in the next lecture. Bye bye. Bye bye. Thank you. Take care. You too.